Before the tapestries of time were woven, before the first star ignited its fiery breath, there was only heaven, a realm of pure incandescent light, where the very air hummed with divine harmony. In this boundless majesty, closest to the sovereign's luminous throne, stood Azael. He was the highest of the celestial beings, a personal guardian, bathed in a favor so profound it set him apart from all others. His presence was a beacon, a testament to unparalleled perfection, reflecting the glory of the sovereign with an awe-inspiring radiance. Azael was not merely close to the sovereign. He was a living jewel of creation. His form, crafted with meticulous artistry, glittered with 9 precious stones, each one a miniature galaxy mirroring the divine light that flowed from the throne. He was heaven's designated worship leader, and when Azael's voice rose, a symphony of pure, unadulterated beauty, all other celestial harmonies hushed. Every angel, every living creature in that ethereal realm paused to listen, captivated by the sheer, breathtaking perfection of his song. Yet, even in such divine perfection, a shadow began to stir. Azael, standing ever so close to the wellspring of all power, the object of all worship, began to gaze not outward at the sovereign, but inward at the reflection of that glory within himself. A subtle desire, a whisper of ambition, started to coil around his magnificent heart. Why should all this adoration flow only to the sovereign? Why not to the one who so perfectly reflected it, the one who orchestrated the very worship? A dangerous thought began to form. Indeed, Azael's position was singular. Before the universe unfurled its cosmic canvas, before the first speck of dust coalesced into a planet, Azael stood vigil. He was the closest, the most trusted, the guardian of the sovereign's sacred throne. His splendor was so immense, so overwhelming, that other angels could only steal glances, their own forms humbled by his sheer, radiant brilliance. He was, in every conceivable way, peerless, a masterpiece of divine creation, unmatched in his glory and his proximity to the ultimate power. His role was not merely ornamental. Azael was the covering cherub, the sovereign's confidant and personal shield. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of counsel. When he sang, it was as if heaven itself held its breath. The celestial guard, mighty and numerous, would halt their eternal praise, their hearts stirred to profound reverence by the sheer power and beauty of his song. He was an instrument of such perfect harmony, such profound influence, that it seemed his gifts knew no bounds. His physical form was a spectacle of divine artistry. His body shimmered, not with mere light, but with the living glow of 9 precious, unearthly stones, each one a facet of the sovereign's own light. His wings, vast and powerful, burned with a cold, unceasing fire, an ethereal flame that neither consumed nor diminished. And with every graceful step, light itself seemed to spring forth, trailing behind him like a celestial aurora, leaving no doubt as to the sheer, breathtaking splendor of Azael. Yet, this very perfection, this constant adoration, became a poison. Azael observed the other angels, their awestruck gazes, their hushed whispers when he passed. He noticed how even Archon, the valiant warrior angel, would subtly defer, stepping aside with a respectful inclination of his head. This ceaseless validation, this undeniable eminence, began to twist his internal perception. The glory meant for the sovereign, reflected so perfectly in Azael, started to feel like his own. His perfection was no longer a gift but a right, and a source of burgeoning pride. Beneath the shimmering surface of his perfection, a deep dissatisfaction began to fester. Azael, endowed with every celestial gift, tasked with the most prestigious role, felt a growing resentment. He was the best, the most beautiful, the closest to the sovereign, yet he was still a servant. Always, always, the sovereign was above him. His gifts, his voice, his very being, were meant to serve Enos another. This fundamental truth, once the source of his joy, now chafed like an invisible chain, an unfulfilled ambition, stirring within his perfect heart. One day, in a moment of profound introspection, Azael gazed into the vast, crystalline sea of heaven. He saw his own magnificent glory reflected there, a vision of unparalleled beauty and power. And in that reflection, a dangerous, forbidden thought, sharp as a diamond shard, pierced the placid surface of his mind. What if I didn't have to bow? It was a question that shimmered with nascent rebellion, a thrilling, terrifying possibility that promised a liberation he hadn't even realized he craved. The seed of his fall was now planted, deep within the fertile ground of his pride. The harmonious rhythm of heaven was soon punctuated by an unprecedented event. The sovereign, with a voice that resonated through every celestial sphere, called every single angel, from the mightiest archon to the humblest messenger, to stand before his throne. The air, usually filled with joyful praise, now vibrated with a profound anticipation. Every celestial being felt it. This was not a routine council, but the cusp of the most important announcement in the history of heaven, a revelation that would forever alter their eternal existence. As millions of angels stood in silent reverence, the sovereign's voice, calm yet powerful, echoed through the celestial halls. "I am going to create something new," he declared, "something unlike anything you have seen. I will create humans, and I will make them in my own image." A ripple of murmurs, a wave of surprise, swept through the angelic host. Humans, made in the sovereign's image? This was an unprecedented distinction, an honor that had never been bestowed upon any celestial being, and a profound challenge to the established order. Confusion flickered across countless angelic faces. They turned to one another, wings rustling softly, their expressions a mix of puzzlement and disbelief. Humans? What could these new unknown creatures possibly be? What could be better, more perfect than heaven itself, or the angels who served the sovereign, and to be made in his image? The angels, though glorious, were not made in that divine likeness. A subtle jealousy, a sense of displacement, began to stir in the hearts of some, not least within Azael, whose perfect features tightened, almost imperceptibly. The sovereign continued, his words like a hammer blow to Azael's burgeoning pride. One day, he announced, "My own son, the Redeemer, will humble himself and become one of them." A collective gasp swept through heaven. And through him, these humans will rule over everything. Yes, even angels will serve them. The implications were staggering, a direct challenge to the angelic hierarchy. Azael's eyes widened, not in awe, but in a silent, seething fury. Serve these new, fragile creatures? It was an insult, a cosmic demotion he refused to accept. The sovereign's words struck Azael with the force of a physical blow. A silent, internal scream ripped through his being. No, 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 no. His magnificent form trembled with an uncontainable rage. Serve them? Creatures that didn't even exist yet? These things made of dirt and spit? He, Azael, the most perfect of all, the lightbearer, the covering cherub, would bow down to mud? Never. His mind roared with indignation and absolute, blasphemous refusal. "I will not bow," he raged inwardly. "Not to them, not to anyone." In that instant, something inside Azael snapped. It was not a gentle break, but a violent, irreversible fracture, like crystal hitting unforgiving concrete, a point of no return. For the first time, he felt something hot and ugly and powerfully exhilarating surge through his essence. Pride. It rushed through him like a potent poison, consuming the last vestiges of his perfect, selfless nature. His radiant light flickered, subtly, imperceptibly, as this terrifying, liberating ambition took root, transforming him irrevocably into something new, something dark. This was the genesis of evil. With pride now fully awakened, Azael's ambition swelled, reaching truly blasphemous heights. The thought that sealed his eternal doom, twisting his divine purpose into a monstrous perversion, solidified in his mind. I could run heaven better than the sovereign. Not, I want to help. Not, I want to serve better. No. The thought was absolute, audacious, and utterly self-deifying. I could purbury the sovereign. This was the ultimate transgression, a declaration of internal war against the Creator himself, a brazen grab for divine authority. Outwardly, Azael remained a vision of perfection. He forced a radiant smile, his voice blending seamlessly with the celestial choir as they sang praises to the sovereign, ostensibly celebrating the grand announcement. But within, a maelstrom of malice churned. He was already planning, scheming, calculating. The perfect angel, once a beacon of truth, was now heaven's first and greatest liar. Every note he sang, every ray of light he emitted, was a perfect lie, concealing the sinister, rapidly falling essence that now consumed him. Azael began his insidious campaign. He moved subtly among the vast ranks of the celestial guard, seeking out those angels who felt overlooked, whose worship, though sincere, seemed to garner less attention than others. He flattered them, his voice a silken whisper. "You deserve what the sovereign will not give," he'd murmur. "I see you. The sovereign doesn't even know your name, but I do. You deserve better. We all do." His words, laced with false empathy and promises of recognition, began to sow the seeds of discontent, finding fertile ground in unacknowledged hearts. Azael's whispers, like a virulent celestial disease, spread through heaven. He didn't openly call for rebellion. He was far too cunning for such crude tactics. Instead, he simply asked questions, insidious and corrosive. If the sovereign is truly love, why does he demand worship? He would imply. If we have free will, why can't we use it for our own glory? What is he hiding from us? These questions, once unthinkable, began to circulate, eroding the bedrock of trust, creating chasms of doubt, where once there was only unwavering faith and harmony. Soon, in the shadowed corners of heaven, in places where the light of the sovereign's throne did not directly fall, angels began to gather in secret. Hushed conversations turned into fervent discussions, fueled by Azael's intoxicating promises. They spoke of how they would be gods ourselves, echoing Azael's own blasphemous ambition. "We'll have our own kingdoms," they whispered, "our own worship, our own subjects." The allure of self-rule and unchecked power, a distorted reflection of Azael's original sin, captivated them, solidifying their allegiance to the burgeoning rebellion. Not all were blinded. Archon, the stalwart warrior angel, felt a growing disquiet. He noticed the furtive glances, the sudden silences when he approached, the way groups of angels would scatter, their conversation abruptly cut short. A tension, thick and unnatural, permeated the once serene atmosphere of heaven. With a heavy heart, Archon confided in Herald, another loyal angel. "Something's wrong," he said, his voice laced with sorrow. "A shadow grows where light once shone." A premonition of cosmic tragedy settled upon them. Archon and Herald, deeply troubled, attempted to warn their brethren to expose Azael's deceit. But the insidious poison had already spread too far. Azael, ever the master manipulator, quickly spun a counter-narrative. "Of course they're against us." He sneered to his growing followers, gesturing subtly towards Archon and Herald. "They're the sovereign's favorites. They want to keep us down, to deny you what you deserve." His words inflamed resentment, effectively turning loyal angels into perceived enemies, solidifying the rebels' resolve in their misguided quest for freedom. The moment of cosmic reckoning arrived. Before the sovereign's throne, a vast, silent crossroads, every angel had to make an irreversible choice: creator or creation, truth or lies. The air crackled with profound consequence as millions of celestial beings physically separated, forming two distinct, immense armies. 1/3 of heaven's angels, swayed by Azael's captivating lies, chose rebellion. They became the shadow host, their forms subtly dimming as they aligned with their new, defiant leader, leaving heaven to bear its first profound heartbreak. With his vast army arrayed behind him, Azael, no longer concealing his malice, marched directly to the sovereign's throne. This was no act of worship, but a brazen, public defiance. His voice, once a melody of praise, now thundered with arrogance, echoing through the stunned silence of loyal heaven. "I will ascend to heaven," he declared, his eyes blazing with furious ambition. "I will raise my throne above the sovereign stars. I will be the Most High." It was a manifesto of usurpation, shattering heaven's eternal peace and igniting the fuse of open conflict. Heaven, once a realm of perfect harmony, was instantly transformed into a maelstrom of chaos. War erupted, a cataclysmic clash that shook the very foundations of eternity. The celestial guard, their faces etched with righteous fury, roared, "For the king!" as they charged, wielding blades of pure light. The shadow host, their forms now cloaked in deepening darkness, screamed back, "For freedom!" Their weapons, forged from stolen starlight and raw power, met the loyalists in a devastating symphony of destruction. Angels who had once sung together, who had worshipped side by side, now violently sought to destroy each other, and heaven wept. At the very heart of the celestial battlefield, where the conflict raged most fiercely, Azael met Archon. It was a clash of titans, a personal manifestation of the cosmic war. Azael, fueled by a furious pride, wielded dark, raw power that could melt stars, his attacks a torrent of destructive energy. Archon, unwavering in his loyalty, met him with a righteousness that could shatter mountains, his defenses like impenetrable shields of divine justice. Their collision, a blinding explosion of light and shadow, sent shockwaves through eternity, a testament to the devastating power of their opposing wills. But the truth, immutable and absolute, began to assert itself. No one, not even the most perfect creation, could ever truly defeat the sovereign. One by one, the shadow host fell, their stolen light fading, their defiant screams turning to whimpers of despair. Azael himself, once so magnificent, found himself brought to his knees, utterly defeated. His once perfect face, now contorted and ugly with impotent rage, stared up at the unyielding power of the sovereign. His ambition had brought him to this, a broken, humiliated figure on the battlefield of his own making. Then the sovereign's voice, not in anger but in sorrowful finality, boomed across the devastated expanse of heaven. "Get out." And with that command, 1/3 of heaven's angels, the shadow host, were cast out. They fell, a torrent of streaking darkness, through the cosmos, away from the light they had defied. Heaven, for the first time, experienced war, profound loss, and an immeasurable heartbreak. The glorious realm was forever changed but cleansed, as the fallen were exiled to the cold, unforgiving darkness. Azael, now forever known as Satan, the adversary, struck earth like a bolt of jagged lightning. He was defeated, yes, but not destroyed. His essence, though twisted and diminished, still burned with a furious malice. He quickly identified his new target, a lush, vibrant sanctuary called the Garden of Eden, and within it 2 innocent beings, firstborn and life-giver, humanity, the sovereign's newest creation. A new, more insidious battle was about to begin. Azael, the architect of heaven's first war, was a quick study. He had learned from his colossal failure. Open rebellion, direct confrontation would not work against the sovereign. No, his new plan would be far more subtle, more insidious. He would use deception, not like a blunt instrument, but like a surgeon's scalpel, precise, calculated, and invisible, until its fatal work was done. He would corrupt from within, turning the sovereign's beloved creation against him, inflicting a wound far deeper than any battle could achieve. From the shadows, Azael meticulously observed firstborn and life-giver. For days he studied their innocent routines, their carefree laughter, their boundless trust. He noted life-giver's solitary walks among the vibrant flora, firstborn's occasional moments of distraction, and their shared, unburdened love for the lush bounty of the garden, particularly the central trees. He cataloged their vulnerabilities, their pure, unblemished innocence, recognizing that it would be their greatest weakness against his refined, predatory cunning. The trap was being meticulously set. Azael chose his disguise with chilling precision. He shed his dark, smoldering form and took on the appearance of the most beautiful creature in Eden, a serpent, but unlike any other. It walked upright. Its scales shimmered with the colors of a rainbow, its legs adorned with countless jewels. A vision of harmless allure, it coiled patiently by the forbidden tree, its eyes gleaming with a cold, calculating intelligence. He waited for Life-Giver, humming softly, to approach, a perfect picture of innocent temptation. Life-Giver, her heart light, approached the forbidden tree, pausing to admire its luscious fruit. Then, a voice, like the gentle chime of crystal bells, startled her. "Did the sovereign really say you can't eat from Colony Tree?" she heard. Life-Giver jumped, astonished. "You can talk," she exclaimed, her innocent curiosity piqued. The serpent smiled, its jeweled scales glinting. "Of course I can talk. But answer my question. Did the sovereign really say that?" The first crack, in perfect obedience, had appeared, a subtle seed of doubt planted. The serpent chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "Die? You won't die." Then, leaning in, it lowered its voice, as if sharing a profound secret. "The sovereign knows that when you eat this fruit, your eyes will open. You'll see what he sees, know what he knows. You'll be gods yourselves, knowing good and evil." The lie, an echo of Azael's own downfall, was delivered with seductive power. Life-Giver's eyes widened, not in fear but in fascination, a dawning understanding of forbidden knowledge stirring within her. Life-Giver's face transformed. The forbidden fruit was no longer a symbol of prohibition, but a gateway to stolen possibilities, a treasure unjustly withheld. A sense of deprivation, of being kept from something vital, began to poison her innocent contentment. Azael, the serpent, pressed his advantage, his whispers insidious. "The sovereign has everything," he murmured, "and he's keeping you here, naked and ignorant like pets. Don't you want more? Don't you deserve more?" Her hand, hesitant at first, now hovered, trembling, closer to the ripe, glistening fruit. Her decision made, Life-Giver's hand moved with purpose. She plucked the fruit, its stem yielding effortlessly. Then she called to Firstborn, who had been drawn by the hushed voices and stood nearby, watching. They looked at the fruit, then at each other, a shared, desperate hunger in their eyes. Life-Giver bit first, the juice sweet on her tongue. Then Firstborn followed. In that single, catastrophic act, paradise was traded for a lie. Innocence shattered, and their eyes opened, not to godhood, but to searing shame and paralyzing fear. The sovereign, in his sorrowful justice, immediately delivered a prophecy that would haunt Azael through eternity. "One day, a child born from woman will crush your head." From that moment, Azael's malice focused on preventing this promised redeemer. He whispered to Cain, twisting his envy into murder. "His blood would make good fertilizer for your crops." He taught humans dark, forbidden magic, leading to the great flood that cleansed the earth. He inspired the Tower of Babel, a hubristic attempt to unite humanity against the sovereign. His objective was clear: obliterate the lineage, destroy the hope. Millennia later, Azael's relentless war against the promised lineage continued. Egypt became his fortress of oppression, with Pharaoh as his unwitting pawn. "The Hebrew slaves are having too many babies," Azael whispered into the Pharaoh's ear. "They'll overthrow you. Kill every baby boy." It was a direct, desperate attempt to sever the messianic line at its root. But the sovereign's plan was unyielding. A tiny basket, a weeping mother, and a baby named Moses floated to safety, destined to free his people and keep the prophecy alive. Azael tried everything. He corrupted the bloodline with monstrous giants, seeking to dilute the purity of humanity. He hunted kings, turning them to idolatry and tyranny. He exploited human weakness, even in the heart of King David, to sow chaos and destroy the promised line from within. When prophets arose, boldly foretelling the coming child, Azael had them silenced, their voices brutally extinguished. Yet, even as they fell, their words, sealed by the sovereign, echoed through time, an unstoppable tide of truth. As the ages turned, the prophecies grew with increasing clarity, painting an undeniable picture. The child would be born in Bethlehem of a virgin. The time was drawing near. Azael, consumed by a desperate fury, ordered the slaughter of countless prophets, thinking to silence the truth forever. But their words had already been written, etched into scrolls, sealed by the immutable will of the sovereign. The countdown to the Redeemer's arrival had begun, and Azael, for all his malice, could not stop it. Then, one miraculous night, the skies above a small, unassuming town in Bethlehem exploded with light and song. The celestial guard, countless millions, filled the heavens, their voices raised in a joyous, thunderous chorus. The child, the Redeemer, had been born. Azael, sensing the cosmic shift, rushed to see. There, in a humble stable, he beheld the sovereign's own son, wrapped in swaddling clothes, fragile yet emanating an undeniable divine power. The promised crusher of his head had arrived, and Azael's heart filled with an ancient, chilling dread. Years later, when the Redeemer had grown, Azael sought a direct confrontation. He found him in the desolate desert, after 40 days of fasting, at his weakest physical point. Azael, in his most cunning form, offered temptations that mirrored his own fall. "Turn these stones to bread," he urged, playing on hunger. "Jump from the temple," he commanded, appealing to pride. "Bow to me," he whispered, "and I'll give you the whole world without having to die for it." But the Redeemer, with unwavering truth and perfect obedience, simply replied, "No." Azael's core tactics had failed. Azael, desperate, unleashed his last, most brutal plan to kill the Redeemer. On a grim hill called Golgotha, the Redeemer was crucified. The sky went dark, the earth trembled, and in the depths of hell, a cacophony of demonic celebration erupted. Azael, roaring with savage triumph, believed he had won. For 3 days, hell lit up with this celebration, convinced the, quote, promised head crusher was gone, unaware that this perceived victory was, in fact, the very heart of the sovereign's greater unbreakable plan. But on the third morning, a blinding light erupted from the Redeemer's tomb. Death itself died. The massive stone seal, meant to hold him forever, shattered into dust. The Redeemer walked out not as a ghost, but alive, glorious, and powerful, having utterly conquered the grave. The tremors of this cosmic event resonated through all creation, reaching even into the deepest pits of hell. Azael's triumphant roar died in his throat, replaced by a chilling, gut-wrenching dread as the truth began to dawn. In hell, Azael's face, usually contorted in malice, sunk into an expression of utter despair. Every demon, every lost soul, froze in terror as he whispered, "No! Oh no! No, no, no!" His false triumph crumbled into dust. The Redeemer, now gloriously alive, descended into hell itself. With divine authority, he strode through Azael's dominion and, from the defeated adversary's grasp, seized the keys of death and hell. Azael was robbed in his own house, his authority shattered, his eternal defeat now undeniably sealed. 2,000 years have passed since that day, and Azael, now consumed by fear and vengeance, knows his end is near. His strategy has become one of desperate malice. He works tirelessly, ceaselessly, to drag as many down with him as possible. His old trick remains his most potent weapon: pride. He whispers into human hearts, "You don't need the sovereign. You're fine on your own. You deserve better. Trust yourself, not him." He exploits every insecurity, every ambition, hoping to swell his ranks before the Redeemer's inevitable return, still fighting a war he has already lost. But the sovereign's plan, patient and perfect, will unfold to its glorious conclusion. One day the sky above earth will split open, not with war, but with an unparalleled cosmic spectacle. The Redeemer will return, not as a humble baby, nor as a suffering servant, but as a triumphant king, heralded by cosmic signs and the thunderous trumpets of heaven. The celestial guard, countless beyond numbering, will pour forth, brilliant and majestic. Every eye on earth, from every nation and every generation, will see him coming in undeniable, awe-inspiring glory, and the final chapter will begin. In a final, desperate act of defiance, Azael will gather his greatest army yet, millions, billions, all those swayed by his lies, for one last, futile fight against the Redeemer. The vast forces of darkness will stretch across the earth, a chilling spectacle of rebellion. But then the Redeemer will speak. One word, a single divine command, unheard by human ears yet resonating with ultimate power, will issue from his lips. And in that instant, it will be over. Azael will fall, the shadow host will scatter like dust, and the entire evil army will dissolve into nothingness, utterly and irrevocably defeated. Then a powerful angel, grim and resolute, will seize Azael by the neck. Dragging him through the cosmic void, he will hurl the defeated adversary into the lake of fire, the place of ultimate torment. Azael will be chained there forever, his screams echoing into an eternity of torment. The fiery depths will close over him, extinguishing his presence from creation. The war is truly over. No escape, no second chances, and on earth a profound peace will settle. The planet, finally cleansed of all evil, will become perfect, just as it was always intended to be. And so the earth will finally become what it was always meant to be, a paradise, purged of all darkness. There will be no more tears, no more death, no more sorrow, no more evil. The lesson of Azael's fall echoes through eternity. Pride, a subtle whisper, can lead to cosmic devastation, yet humility and love ultimately triumph.